Well, things got very, very wild yesterday as we were in our third hour, in the last hour of the program, and as we, after we get off the air. Just to very quickly bring you up to date, Congress ultimately did certify Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as president and vice president of the United States, or president, vice president-elect. And so we now have, 13 days until January 20th? And an enormous amount of damage can be done in 13 days. And there are two levels on which I am very concerned about this. Number one is the level of the Trump supporters, the people who have basically sworn loyalty to a cult of personality, who were, carrying Trump flags rather than American flags. Who, just this whole, it's Jim Jonesville, right? And I saw this thing on Twitter yesterday. We are not done. Today we learned how weak the response was. The 20th is coming. By the way, 420 is one of the numbers that the American neo-Nazis frequently use as code for Adolf Hitler's birthday, April 20th. Now they're referring to the 20th. Here we go again. The 20th is coming. We have been training for this for over a decade. This is not going away, all caps not, and now it will escalate. And here it comes, right? So number one, you've got the followers of Donald Trump who are looking at yesterday as, hey, we just discovered how easy this is, many of these people. And how, little consequence apparently there is. I mean, you had people on Fox News and on other right-wing media basically saying, well, boys will be boys. Seriously. You had this, on Fox News, One American News Network, Newsmax. Lynn Wood, Trump's lawyer, was tweeting that Mike Pence was a traitor, a communist sympathizer, and a child molester. Tucker Carlson said, we've got this sad, chaotic day for a reason. And he looks into the camera, speaking to his right-wing audience, and he says, it's not your fault, it's their fault. Who's the they? Well, his colleague on Fox News, Pete Hegseth, said this, but it wasn't because Donald Trump gave a speech and then told people to do something in the Capitol. Ultimately, to a man and to a woman, I talked to a lot of them yesterday. They said this is a culmination of a feeling I have where my country has been taken over by the left. My voice is being censored and silenced. I'm being canceled. My institutions are being fundamentally changed by the left. Socialists want to take over and transform our country. See, this is the ideology that Fred Koch was promoting back in the 50s when he was funding the John Birch Society and these impeach Earl Warren posters all over America, because Earl Warren, God forbid, in 1954, had been at the head of the Supreme Court when they passed the Brown versus Board ordering integration of our schools. But then it got even crazier than that, as the whole right-wing billionaire network just said any kind of government regulation at all, any kind of social safety net at all, any kind of protection for the average working person, that's socialism. We can't have that, right? So this is what he's blaming this on. He goes on to say, this is Pete Hegseth on Fox News last night. They feel like using COVID as a justification, mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting, going past the constitutional prerogatives of state legislatures, that option has been taken from them too. And so what do folks expect to happen? Well, no, we don't expect you to take the Capitol building. I mean, you prepare for the next election, right? He goes on to say, the images didn't shock me because if you understand how people feel about the moment we're in right now, we feel like we're at a crossroads. People weren't going into the Capitol to target individuals, to kill somebody. They were going in there symbolically, says Pete Hegseth on Fox News last night. If you look at what the left has done in targeting entire communities, private businesses, burning them to the ground, targeting police officers, private businesses. This is just random. He didn't say this. This is random acts of violence which are far more violent and far more destructive than what occurred yesterday. In other words, the lefties are worse than us. He goes on to say, ultimately, you have to be responsible to the needs of the people. People feel like they're not being listened to, like their vote is being ignored. No, their votes were all counted. They just came up about 7 million short. But this is you know, what the right-wingers are saying. So my number one concern is the followers of Donald Trump. And actually, it's kind of my number two concern, but it's the first one I'm laying out for you. That this movement has not stopped. It hasn't even gone underground. It's very, very active. And on January 20th, they're planning a whole brand new thing from what I'm seeing. Now, I'm not inside any of these groups, but hey, this is what I'm seeing. Then the other area that I'm concerned about, and this is the piece I published on medium.com this morning, is on March 19th, 1945. Now, this was 3 weeks before Adolf Hitler committed suicide. The Russians were invading from the northeast. The Americans were invading from the southwest and the west. And Hitler ordered the tank divisions and the German Air Force to just bomb the crap out of Germany, basically bomb my own country back to the Stone Age. This was referred to as this order that he gave, and he gave it to Albert Speer, who had become very, very close to him. He was the architect, literally an architect, design buildings guy. He gave this order, and Albert Speer kind of prevented it from going into effect. But this is how dictators very often go out, is they take everybody down with them. My friend Armin Lehman, he's been on this program. He passed away a few years ago. But he was the 16-year-old kid who took the news to Hitler that the war was lost in the Führer bunker, and he was there when Hitler committed suicide. And he pointed out that Hitler was trying to destroy Germany. He had ordered the destruction of Berlin. Again, the soldiers didn't carry it out. At that point, Armin was one of the senior soldiers at 16. They were recruiting 12-year-old boys. But Hitler was like, we've got to destroy it. If I can't run this country, nobody can run this country. We're going to destroy it. And he's not the only one. Robert Mugabe, in his last days, ordered 20,000 people murdered in a state that didn't vote for him in the presidential election. And they were murdered. Jim Jones wasn't a political leader, although he did have aspirations. But I think he's the prototype of a psychopathic narcissist, which is, very common. There's a reason why these guys almost never voluntarily leave office. They either die in office, like Stalin did, or they are taken out, typically in a war, like Hitler and Mussolini were. But, very rarely do they say, oh, I guess the people don't want me anymore. I'll see you guys later. And Trump still has the nuclear codes. He's still the commander-in-chief of the military. So I am calling, and I'm very gratified to see that Chuck Schumer this morning and my Senator Jeff Merkley just called for Trump to be removed from power, either by impeachment in the House and the Senate, and it can be done in a day, I believe, or through Mike Pence calling the cabinet together and invoking the 25th Amendment and perhaps even institutionalizing Donald Trump against his will.